Howdy, folks. It is Thursday, June 5th. I'm your host, Matt Mitchell, and welcome to TASB Talks, the podcast bringing you the latest happenings and insights into Texas public education. And today I'm joined by my friends from TASB Governmental Relations, Division Director Dr. Gonzalez and Associate Executive Director Kelly Rasti. And I would ask how the two of you are doing, but I feel like you're still recovering a bit from everything.
Accurate.
I mean, everything's already so much better. I mean, the day after, Kelly, you were having a sandwich, and I said, "How's your sandwich?" You said, "Everything's so much better today. Everything's brighter. Everything tastes better."
I did say that.
Yeah. I mean, there's recovering that happens, but it's like a switch too. It's like the switch that just flips and the world is right again.
We're referring to the legislative session, by the way, not anything else weird that may have happened in the last week or so. The session, of course, wrapped up on Monday. That was June 2nd. And so we've had a couple days now to kind of sort of reset mentally, maybe, and digest what's gone on. Obviously, this session has produced some wide-ranging impacts for Texas public education. And so we kind of wanted to have you both on the show to go through some of the biggest takeaways. And so I guess to start, obviously school funding and vouchers were kind of two of the biggest ticket items that were kind of front and center. So why don't we kind of go through that for folks, kind of the biggest takeaways from that bill?
Yeah, that sounds great. That bill, the school funding bill, House Bill 2, is a huge bill and a huge victory. It infuses $8.5 billion into public schools. And we really did come right up against the end of session before it finally got across the finish line. So I think that's also part of why sandwiches taste better right now and the world seems brighter because, I think we all had faith that it was going to make it across the finish line. It was a priority for the lieutenant governor, the governor, and the speaker of the House. And so I felt pretty confident that we would see some iteration of that bill make it across, but you never know. You just never know.
It was kind of a buzzer beater at the end there.
It felt that way. So right now, there's still so much work to be done by school districts, sorting through the details of that bill, because it's a big bill. It's not, it's 200 and some odd pages. Yeah. So, and it does so many different, very helpful things that we probably don't have time to get into all of it here, but I did take some notes so that we can hit the highlights. One of the biggest chunk of that bill goes to teacher and staff pay raises. So over $4 billion is dedicated to that, with a very specific focus on teachers that have 3 or more years of experience. We have enhancements to the teacher incentive allotment as well, a dedicated staff pay allotment. It's $45, I believe, per student in average daily attendance. And that will help provide pay raises for auxiliary staff, non-classroom teacher positions. And then something new that's in this bill, a new allotment, we're calling it the ABC allotment. It is the allotment for basic costs.
Not the basic allotment.
No, not the basic allotment.
Very different things.
The allotment for basic costs. Probably, I do like that nickname ABC. That'll make it easier. That one is more, it's brand new, and that one is meant to address some of the more fixed costs. I guess they're not exactly fixed costs, but some of the basic costs. So TRS expenses that are tied to pay raises, utilities for your water and electric bills to keep those running, insurance premiums, all of those kinds of things. So that allotment right now, with the amount of money they infused into it, is breaking down to, I think, about $106 per student, but it's per enrolled student, which is a really big deal. Most of our allotments are tied to attendance, not enrollment. And so I think that's a really good shift in the right direction. I'm personally very excited about that allotment for the long haul. I think that over the interim and going into the next legislative session, school leaders should really be looking closely at some of their fixed costs. And just the non-instructional costs, the things that you have to do to keep the schools open, keep the buses running, all of that good stuff, because it's impacted so heavily by inflation. So if we have this dedicated allotment where we can go back to the legislature and show them exactly what the costs are and exactly what the impact of inflation has been, I think we might have a better shot of keeping up with inflation in future sessions. So really excited about that one. Small and mid-sized schools are going to see an increase of over $300 million. The school safety allotment more than doubled. So we're going from $10 per student to $20. And then we had a per campus allotment from last session that was $15,000 That is now 33,240, or I'm sorry, 540. So that's a huge boost in school safety funding.
Yeah, I think it's like $430 million total. Yeah.
That's a big price tag. Special education, that's close to $1 billion infused, and that's something that's been worked on by multiple senators and representatives for multiple sessions. Stakeholders have been at the table. That is a huge lift, and we're really grateful for that one. Early learning programs, I think, got almost $500 million. And one piece that's in this bill that I think is really exciting, that's a carryover from Chairman Creighton's, I think it was Senate Bill 9 maybe last session, is eligibility for teachers' own children to be in pre-K. So if you are, a first grade teacher and you have your own child at home who doesn't otherwise qualify for pre-K in Texas, under this bill, now your child does. And I think that's a really important non-salary, non-compensation package benefit that we can offer to teachers. And there's so much more that's in that bill. That's a highlight. I mean, it's 200 plus pages, and we will be sending updates and breakdowns, and we'll have presentations at our conferences. But overall, we are really excited about the passage of that bill.
And there's a report that people can subscribe to, is there not, Doc, so they can get some more legislative information?
That is correct, Matt. There's a legislative report that had a lot of updates on HB2, and as TA starts looking at that and implementing rules and how things will be funded, we'll be providing more updates as we get them. So I always recommend people check it out.
You should definitely do that. I'm subscribed to it, not because I have to, because I just really want to be. But HB2, there were a lot of good things in that bill. That's definitely a good step for public education. And of course, it was paired with vouchers. It's sort of like they were calling it the Texas two-step, I believe, something like that. So we know, just Docs, can you kind of recap what happened with vouchers?
It was just the slowest song ever, though. It was like one step, and then several months later, the second step. So the Education Savings Account bill, Senate Bill 2, passed back in, was it April or late? I mean, it was a lifetime ago. What is it? It is a construct. It's a social construct. But that bill is going to feature $1 billion for this Education Savings Account program. And according to some debate on the House floor towards the end of the session, we're not quite sure that $1 billion is all inclusive. I think it's going to be the $1 billion is for the accounts, and then there's additional for administration of the account, because they were asking those very specific questions there at the end of the session, saying, I believe it was Representative Hinojosa was asking, I thought this $1 billion was for the whole program, and they said, well, that's for the program. The administration is something different. So we'll have to see how that shakes out. That's going to be administered by the Texas Controller right now, Glenn Hagar, but he's announced his moving on, and so we'll see who that's going to be coming up. But yeah, so $1 billion there. The program is going to offer these accounts to families based on tiers, and it will prioritize kids. First, those that have some kind of special need that require special education services, and then you have two tiers of varying degrees of low income status. Although I believe the second tier is up to, I think, like 400 or 500% of the poverty level, and that number is actually for a family of four around $160,000, $170,000 for a family of four, and then the fourth tier is just anyone else. For the first go of this program, it will be reserved to only 20% of that fourth tier can access an education savings account. But after that, it's open to anyone at any amount. So the actual amounts of the vouchers will be, I believe it's $10,000 for for the average ESA. For those that have some kind of special education service requirement, they'll have to go to the public school to get an IEP done. So the public school will have to do the IEP. And then whatever they would have been entitled to at that public school, they can draw down from the ESA up to $30,000. So that is an unquantifiable cost at this point. We'll have to see how many kids enroll who actually require those special education services. There is a $2,500 ESA for homeschool kids, and we'll have to see where it goes. The bill does include a lot of guardrails around it in terms of there is a norm reference test that has to be taken for kids that are using an ESA. There are specific items that people can use to purchase, use the ESA to purchase. But so there are certain things that they can buy. And we'll just see how that looks going forward. It depends on what the rules look like, and hopefully there are some auditing provisions within the bills. So hopefully we get a pretty good behind the curtain look at what's going on once it's in place.
And so we have, what is it, a year until that actually goes into effect? Is it the 26-27 school year? Is that
Yes,
what I read,
yeah.
I think?
Mm-hmm,
So we'll be keeping our eye on that over the next year or so as that program goes into effect. But obviously, like I said, school funding and vouchers, those are kind of the two of the really big items for public ed this session. But there were some other areas that were addressed. Student discipline, property tax relief were a couple. Is that right?
Oh, yeah.
That's right. Yeah, big tax relief. Well, it still has to go to the voters in November. But we're looking at a homestead exemption increase again, because we've done this now twice already, right?
Yes.
In recent sessions. So we're currently at a homestead exemption of $100,000. If the voters approve this in November, it would bump up to $140,000, which is very significant. And districts are going to be working through details of that over the summer, trying to estimate what their local collections will be, what their state share will be, if recapture is impacted, all that good stuff. And then there's also a constitutional amendment in November to increase from $10,000 to $60,000 the exemption for homeowners who are over 65 or disabled. So that's very exciting for taxpayers, exciting for school districts as well, because we are all taxpayers, but it does have an impact on the schools, overall operations and budget. So it's something that CFOs, superintendents, and school boards are going to be working through this summer and beyond, past November, once we know what all is going to take place.
So what does House Bill 6 do? That's the student discipline bill. We mentioned student discipline. What does this bill do?
A lot. That is, so Chapter 37 of the Education Code addresses school discipline and other issues. And I think it's been around now for, actually this year will be 30 years. But it started at about 5 pages long in Education Code, and now it's over 200. So it's been, updated over time, and tweaks are pretty much continuously needed at this point. So what happened with House Bill 6 is kind of a perfect example of how legislation, in my opinion, should be drafted. It rose up from the ranks, from teachers and administrators and trustees, raising the issue, and parents as well, with an uptick in behavioral issues, and just really a need for revisiting the way that we handle classroom disruptions and sometimes violent behaviors. It's always a really emotional and nuanced, delicate, that's a great word, a delicate conversation, because you might jump to thinking, oh, high school students that get in fights. But we're also talking about 5 and 6 year olds that are entering elementary school. And that's a really difficult conversation to talk about, potentially increasing consequences for behaviors that sometimes are right in line with, a child's just natural human development. However, I think that teachers and parents alike agree that there needs to be some common sense approach to how we handle keeping all students safe in the classroom, keeping things orderly enough so that the learning can take place. And so really House Bill 6 was an effort to address that, to be nuanced about how we approach it, but to address concerns that have been bubbling up from teachers and parents alike. So there was kind of a grassroots coalition of school district leaders and teachers and trustees that were working with a few key lawmakers over this most recent interim to try to come up with some very specific policy fixes for discipline issues, behavioral concerns in the classroom. I believe that one of the teacher vacancy task force report recommendations that was put together about 2 years ago, I think one of the recommendations was related to discipline in the classroom and behavioral concerns. And teachers were reporting that was one of the key reasons that they were either considering leaving or that they ultimately did decide to leave the classroom. So
Don't forget our grassroots meetings back in 2024. It was one of the top issues that was coming up in every region was student discipline, and they were linking it directly to the reason why a lot of teachers were choosing to leave the classroom, overpay.
Right.
So that's what we were hearing from our trustee members, and we'll see. In 2026, we have our next round of grassroots meetings, which we look forward to seeing everybody out there.
Yes.
So I just had to get that quick plug.
Yeah, that
No,
started
in
coming
January in
Much appreciated.
2026.
That's kind of a good segue actually into our next kind of topic I wanted to go into. We've talked about the session we just got through, but now I kind of wanted to ask you all about what trustees, or really just anyone interested in public education and advocating for it, can do in the interim, as I know we have another 2 years now. I don't want to jump too far ahead to 2027. I'll let y'all rest a little bit first and not think about it. But what can folks be doing to stay connected and engaged in the meantime?
Oh, I have so many thoughts on this. Now is the time, more so than during session, honestly. Now is go time. We have a lot of freshman members. Can we still call them freshmen since session's over, or you become a sophomore?
Completed the year. They are rising sophomores.
There we go. So we have a lot of relatively new folks in the legislature, and I'm sure they just learned so much, not just about our world in education, but all the topics that they take votes on. But there's still so much more that we need to do, and so much more educating, not just of those members, but veteran members too, who maybe haven't served on appropriations or finance or on the education committees. And maybe we haven't taken them deep down into the weeds yet. We need to bring them a little bit deeper into the weeds. So starting right now, my recommendation would be, if you don't already have a solid relationship, we really need you to build a relationship now with your representatives and your senators. So invite them to come to meetings with you and your fellow trustees, go to their events, make sure that you're signed up for their, alerts if they're having things in district.
Have them come check out a budget meeting.
That's a good idea.
Districts are doing budgets right now. Now would be a really good time to show people a sneak peek of what districts are wrestling with and the kinds of decisions they're needing to make right now. So,
And we've had this conversation with a few trustees recently, when there's just so much going on during session, and trustees who are really plugged in and engaged, they still have their day jobs and their families and their volunteer board service back home, and then they're also trying to help out at the Capitol. And I think for some of them, it feels overwhelming with so many education bills, because we've tracked over 2,000. And what we have been telling some of them is that in your role as a trustee, what's most impactful is not for you to know all 181 lawmakers, excuse me, or to track all 2,000 plus bills. Truly, what is the most impactful is for you to, over the interim and just, in perpetuity, build and continue to build upon the relationships with your hometown elected officials that are serving in Austin, because what we, the collective we of public education, what we need during session is for those trustees who have trusted relationships with their members to be able to call them or text them or email them and let them know when a bill of particular interest is moving, what the impact would be back home. It means so much more to that legislator to know what's going to happen with their hometown school, and they want to hear it from somebody that they know and they trust, and that is not, just a talking head to them, that is somebody they have developed a relationship with. Then when future sessions come along and we are tracking all the bills and we see issues arise, we know who we can call upon to say, hey, Senator so-and-so probably would benefit from hearing from back home about this bill's impact, or Representative so-and-so might not be aware of, XYZ. Can you please reach out to them and let them know? So my top tier recommendation would be go out of your way now to invite them in, and you go to their events and make sure that you build that relationship. And then we can also take a look at bills that didn't make it across the finish line. House Bill 4, which addressed the STAR assessment, is a big one. Clearly, that's going to come back up. Chairman Buckley got that so close to passing the finish line this time. And ultimately, at the end, there were just disagreements between the House version and the Senate's idea of what that should look like. But surely that's going to come back. So I would highly recommend engaging right now with your members on assessments and accountability as well, because we know it's coming back. Might as well get to work on it right now.
Well, you heard her. So the work doesn't stop. I know I said at the beginning, session's over, let's all take a rest and relax, but actually scrap all of that. The work doesn't stop. The work is just getting started.
But this is fun stuff. This is It's getting to meet people and introducing them to your district or reintroducing them to your district. So it's not as hectic as it is during session. It's a lot easier pace. It's bringing them into events that you're hosting, and they're not as busy, so they have time to actually focus on what you're talking about now. So I think it's like you said, it's just a really great time now through next session to just be building those relationships. And like you said, you don't have to know everybody. And as you know, leverage the board. You have 7 members on a board. Divvy up, and 2 folks can get to know the rep, and 2 folks can get to know the senator, and 2 folks can get to know another representative maybe for that district. But it can be divvied up so trustees don't feel like they have to know every single person, even within their district.
And even if you're not a trustee, I'd be remiss if I didn't mention that there are still plenty of ways you can stay involved, stay engaged. I know I mentioned earlier, right? You mentioned earlier the legislative report we have. That's a great resource that really anyone can access, can sign up for to get updates as they're needed throughout the interim. We have a Texans for Strong Public Schools newsletter, another great newsletter resource we have with all kinds of great information coming out monthly, or even just, paying attention to your local news. There's plenty of good sources out there to just keep up with what's happening in public education, to stay engaged, stay informed. And am I missing anything?
Can I add one more thing?
Yeah,
I'm
absolutely.
just reading the notes I made to myself, and I forgot. This is a good one. We'll be able to help with this in the coming weeks, as will other, peer organizations. But I would highly recommend that boards work with administration right now in the coming months and really comb through House Bill 2 and make sure that you're aware of all of the new items that are on the table, because some of them require action to draw down certain funds. And so you might, it might be something that your district does want to do. There's enhanced teacher incentive allotment options. There are some grants as well. But those are funding components that you have to take a step toward accessing. It's not part of just the baked in formula. So I would highly recommend that you really dig into that bill. Make sure you know all the options that are on the table.
So all that to say, there is a lot that we can be doing in the meantime. It's been a hectic session. We're through it. And now we look forward to the next one. And there's still work to be done, but good work, the good work. I know we all like the work we do here. And I want to take this time to say thank you all as a GR team for all that you've done, being down there at the Capitol, really being in the middle of all of it, and just the work you do, and for being on the show, taking the time to do this, to come on here and just kind of explain what's happening to the rest of us.
Yeah.
So thank you very much.
Fun.
It has been fun.
Yeah.
Yeah. We look forward to doing it all over again next time.
We will not look too forward to 2027, but we will be looking forward to that. And I am just curious what your favorite moment of the session was. What is something cool or memorable that stood out to you?
Do you have a favorite?
Well, to me, it is always just seeing the trustees show up to advocate. They're always there. It's like almost every day that there's a House Pub Ed hearing, we see trustees come into the office for a little bit to say hi before they head to the Capitol, or they come in during their lunch break or something like that. And it's you see a lot of the same faces, but you also see a lot of new faces. And every session, it's new faces added to the group. So it's just always very inspiring, and it's something that we love to see, because that's who they want to hear from. They want to hear from their folks back home. So. So it is great, and they can't always make it all the time, but they're there a pretty good amount for folks who are not paid to be there.
They made such a big difference this session. I think so many bills were either significantly improved or actually passed because of their work. It was incredibly impressive. I have a note in front of me that I hope is fully accurate, and if it's not, apologies in advance. But I think this is very cool. This is a list of members who are currently serving that used to be trustees. It's a big list, and I think that's part of why we've gotten a lot of the things that we needed, is because people with really solid experience in the school district as a trustee are in the Capitol now. So Representative Anchia was at Dallas ISD, Representative Ashby at Lufkin, Representative Barry Pearland, Representative Cecil Bell, Magnolia ISD, Rep. Keith Bell, Forney ISD, Chairman Brad Buckley was a trustee at Killeen ISD, Rep Cunningham, Humble ISD, Rep Hinojosa at Austin, Rep Howard at Eanes, Representative Holt, Silsbee, Representative Ray Lopez from Northside ISD, Rep Jones, Yolanda Jones, Houston ISD, Representative Ken King, Canadian, Representative Stan Lambert from Abilene, Representative Janie Lopez from San Benito, Representative Orr from Itasca, Representative Spiller from Jacksboro, Representative Turner from Goldberg ISD, Rep Villalobos, Midway ISD, Rep Wharton, Huntsville, and Senator Hancock, Birdville ISD. That's a lot.
That is a lot.
And I hope I didn't miss anybody. I feel like I probably did, but that is a lot of people serving us in the legislature that cut their teeth on education policy serving as school board trustees.
And a lot of those folks came through either the TASB board or our legislative advisory council, or we've seen them at different conferences. So it is really cool seeing them there and then seeing them on the big stage.
Yeah.
That is very cool. And you know what else is very cool is that we're going to wrap this up, actually, because I feel like y'all might be tired of me asking you questions and talking. You want to go, I don't know, rest your voice or whatever it is. But I've said it before. I'll say it again. I love having y'all on the show every time. It's always a great chat, and appreciate both of y'all being here as always. And I appreciate you, the listeners and the watchers, for tuning in. Again, you can find us on YouTube. You can find us at Spotify, Apple. But thanks so much to you all, and thank you all for tuning in, and we will see you next time.